Sheila can sing, can't she? Amen. Children, you're dismissed to Children's Church. Good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year. Good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year. It is good to see everybody this morning, and once again I say thank you so much for getting out on a cold morning. Amen. We have decided to have winter finally around here. We've been lucky these past 2 or 3 years, really haven't had much winter. And my pond rolls over and I've got a chopped ice. And I can't open the door that the cows aren't standing out there begging for a cube or something other like that to eat. And so it's just that time of year. This morning I want to just tell us and to say, it seems as if, and maybe in your spirit too, that even though we are here at this time of year, we're about to say goodbye to 2017 and say hello to 2018. Have you stopped and thought about that for a second? I mean, when we were younger, did we ever even give thought to 2018? I remember one time when I was in the 7th grade, our science teacher said, I want you to do something for me. He said, I want you to figure out how old you'll be in the year 2000. Well, I looked at each other like, good, it's 2000. I thought, who thinks about the year 2000? And I remember looking at it, and I figured it up, and I think I turned 38 or something like that in the year 2000, and I thought, man, that's old. You know? Now here we are in 2018, almost. It's hard for us sometimes to fathom and to grasp hold of. And it seems to me that as we have come through this week, we have experienced life. We have experienced the reality of life. We have had to say goodbye to some very dear friends and to some very good people. And that is always tough, and it's rough, and it's hard. And the one thing I know about Sister Unibel, about Brother Jim, about Sister Kim Ivy, they were Christians. They knew Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of their life. If we believe what this Word says and what this Bible tells us, we know that today they are all three together. Believe it or not. Just think of this, just for a second. All three together in heaven, seeing Jesus Christ face to face. What a thought. What a thought it is that they would be able to have this time and this opportunity to be able to do that and to be able to know that they can be there together. And as they are rejoicing, and believe me, I believe with all of my heart, they are rejoicing this morning. I also believe that they're waiting on us. And I believe that they're ready to meet us at the gate. And they're ready to say, where you been? What took you so long? Let me show you around. Amen? Amen. And so this morning, I want us maybe to just take a look here as we're saying goodbye to the old year, saying hello to a new year. That maybe we take this look and we look at these things. Let me read Scripture to you. And this maybe helps set the tone for us a little bit this morning. In Matthew chapter 8, starting at verse 23, it says this. When he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But he was asleep. let that sink in just for a second. He gets in a boat, pushes out, a storm comes up, and the storm is so violent that the boat is about to flip over, turn over, sink, water waves coming in. And what does it say? He's asleep. You know, sometimes what happens in life when we're going through life, and especially when we have to face certain things, there seems to be, there's those times in our lives when we wonder, where is Jesus? We wonder, why is he allowing me to go through what I am going through right now? Sometimes we even maybe get a little selfish with that thinking and say, why me? I told you many times, I can remember when they first come out and they told me that I had cancer. I kind of went through the little deal where it was like, you know, at first, well, why me? God finally had to show me, why not you? Why are you so special? What makes you any different than anyone else? It was a teaching time. And we look around and sometimes we go, well, why is this? And why is that? And why does this happen? And why is this? And brothers and sisters, this morning, when we look at him, sometimes we say, well, where is Jesus? Why is he? It seems as if in the middle of the storm, he's asleep. And we wonder where he's at and what's going on. If we read the rest of the story, we read this. They went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we are perishing. We need to receive and to see what happens. Is sometimes what happens, what we do is we kind of get caught up and we will sometimes get into the woe is me. And we forget to go to the one we need to go to. We can sometimes get to that place to where we are so caught up in ourselves and what we're feeling that we forget to go to the one who can give us the comfort that we need. But when the disciples finally decided that there's no way that they're going to make it through this thing, when they saw that there's no way they're going to be able to oar their way through this, or that it looks like this boat's going to be turned over, what they finally decided they need to do is, let's go wake the one that we know can handle things. What are we going to do? How are we going to face this? What's about to happen? One of the stories says, don't you even care that we're about to perish? Listen to what Jesus says. And he said to them, why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, what sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Brothers and sisters, whenever we come to these times and come to these places when it seems like there's no way, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if I don't know if I can bear one more piece of bad news. I don't know if I can handle one more distress in my life. We need to remember to go to the one who can calm the storm. Jesus can calm the storm. But what do we have to do? What did the disciples have to do? They had to go to Jesus. And what we need to remember to do ourselves is we need to remember to go to Jesus. We need to remember that Jesus is going to be there and He's going to listen to us. We need to remember that He wants us to bear our soul to Him. I think far too many times we as Christians, maybe we've even been taught, well, don't bother Jesus with this. Certainly don't let Him know about this emotion in my life, because if I do, He might look at me kind of bad. It might not be what Jesus wants to hear. Can I tell you, He already knows. But what He wants is for us to share with Him, so that when we begin to have the conversation with Him, because you know what it does, it really allows us to be able to open up where He can then begin to really and truly speak to us. Because really, if we don't share honestly with Him, what we have done is we have really closed our communication off. He cannot communicate with us as He would want to do, or as He should be able to do in our life, because we're not being completely honest with Him. He wants us to open up. He wants us to be honest with Him. He wants to know our very raw emotion that is going on in our life. It is only then that He can begin to help us deal with what is happening and what is going on inside of us. It is only then that He can begin to reveal the things that is needed in our life, that we can begin to change those things in order that He can help us in our life, in order to be able to become better people, to become better Christians, to be followers of Jesus Christ. If we're angry, He understands anger. He made it. If we're sad, He understands sad. If we're bitter, He understands bitterness. If we're worried, He understands worried. You see, when we come to Him and we really and truly begin to open up ourselves to Him, He can then calm the storm. But until we go to Him, and until we open up to Him, and until we are honest with Him, we're going to find ourselves continuing to deal with the storm. When we open up and allow Him to speak to us and to help us to deal with what is causing the storm in our life, things will change for us in our life. He will change things for us in our life. It took me a long time to realize and remember to try to understand that. To try to understand that God can change things in one's life. I am living proof that God changes people. When I was a young man, I had a temper. I had a short fuse. It didn't take much to set me off. You could say something to me, and I was ready to fight. God changed that in my life. God changed it. When I really and truly gave it all over to Him, it got to the place and the point where I don't get upset about a whole lot anymore. It takes me a long ways and a long time to get really, really mad. Because what I understood and what I knew was in my life, that was something that was terrible, it was something that was bad, and it was about to take me to a place to where I could end up in jail somewhere. And when I realized my temper was short and that it was bad and that it was detrimental to other people around me, God began to deal with me and He began to show me and He changed in me my temper. God deals with us and He works with us in the things that needs to happen. And when we are caught up in the storm, what we will do is allow Him to work inside of us. He will change that. When we are caught up and we're in a place where things just simply are not going well, I have been frustrated. We're saying goodbye to 2017. We're saying hello to 2018. How many of you can honestly say 2017 kind of frustrated me a little bit this year? Maybe even a whole lot. Right? And maybe what I'm doing is I'm caught up in the storm of the frustration. Maybe I'm caught up in the emotion of the anger. Maybe I'm caught up in the emotion of the hurt. I'm going through the storm of the waves where it seems as if it seems to almost go away, and then all of a sudden here comes a wave and it comes crashing in again. Or the wind blows again and here it comes again. What we do is we take it to Jesus and allow Him to calm the storm. When we look at these things, we see these things, we see Jesus at work, and we see how the disciples went to Him, and when He looked out and He said to the storm to just, hey, calm down. And the storm immediately dies. We find a peace inside of our life. Remember last week we talked about peace. If you remember, we did the little acrostic thing for just a short little time to find real peace in our life. Jesus will bring peace to our life. He will allow us to be able to experience those things. But here's what we've got to do. We've got to accept that. I think so many times what happens is we hear this and we know it and we will kind of on the surface accept. I'm talking about a complete give-over. I'm talking about a complete letdown. I'm talking about tear the wall down all the way to the foundation. And accept what Christ has done and what He brings and what He gives to us to calm the storm. Because sometimes what happens is a lot of times we just allow things to just continue to bother us over and over and over and over again. And we're in this repetitive cycle over and over. It's kind of like the squirrel in the cage, on the wheel in the cage. He's running, but he's not getting anywhere. So if we accept what Jesus brings, if we accept the fact that Jesus brings real true peace to us, if we accept the fact that what He'll do is that He brings renewal to us, we can begin now to understand how the storm can be calm. Listen to what Jesus said, what Paul said in 2 Corinthians. He says, the old has passed away, behold, the new has come. And all of this is from God. When we allow and begin to believe and to understand that God can calm the storm, that Jesus will calm the storm, what we can do then begin to know and begin to understand that all of these old things are now gone. They are all passed away. Brothers and sisters, what we've got to do is we've got to accept that. We've got to let them go. I heard some really good messages this morning before coming to church. I listened to Tony Evans this morning, listened to James Merritt this morning before coming to church. They had some super good things to say. Well, one of the things I've got to try to do is I've got to let go of my hurts. If I want real true peace, if I want the storm to calm in my life, I've got to let go of the hurts in my life. Because what I choose to do is continue to hang on to those hurts. If I continue to hang on to the pain, if I continue to hang on to the frustration, if I continue to hang on to the anger inside of my life, it's going to be an anchor, and I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. And if you are anchored in the storm, and the waves begin to come, and they begin to crash on you, what happens is it swamps the boat. And what we've got to do is we have got to let go of those things, and we have got to accept that Jesus Christ is going to renew those things. He can and He will bring renewal. Listen to what He says in Revelation. And now He who was seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. But what I have got to do is I have got to accept the fact that He is making those things new in my life. That He is bringing real true peace in my life. That I can allow those things to go away. That I can allow those things to be done with. Again, if we are hanging on to frustration, if we are hanging on to anger, if we are hanging on to bitterness, if we are hanging on to unforgiveness, who is the one who is in prison? Who is the one who is in jail? Who is the one drinking the poison hoping the other one dies? We've got to let those things go, and we've got to accept that Jesus Christ is making things new. We've got to apply what Jesus says. We've got to be able to take what Jesus has told us. We've got to be able to take what Jesus taught us. We've got to be able to apply those things to our life. That what they will do is they will help us to be renewed. His teachings, His ways, His commandments will renew us in our heart. It will renew us in our mind. It will renew us in our soul. And it will renew our life. Where people will be able to see and to know there is a difference in us and who we are. We've got to take what He told us and obey His commandments. We've got to be reminded that sometimes what happens is we grow weary, we grow tired. And we're reminded that as Christians, we are lifted up as if we were on eagle's wings. A story that I found out about eagles that was kind of interesting to me, that I didn't know this. Did you know that when baby eaglets are learning to try to fly, Mom encourages them to get out of the nest, And they will try to fly. And they'll get tired. And they might not be making it. And the eaglet will start to fall. And the mother will swoop down and catch that eaglet on its wings. Gives us a new perspective of what that first means, doesn't it? Jesus saved those that were in the boat. Jesus calmed the storm. And brothers and sisters, when we apply God's Word, when we apply Jesus' commandments, when we apply the way that He lived His life to the way that we live our life, what will happen is that even though we might grow tired, even though we might grow weary, we will be lifted up on wings like eagles.
Amen.
And the third thing, we need to protect these things in our life. We get to play an active part in this. We get to protect what God has given us, what He has done to us. Because here's what Paul reminds us of. Paul reminds us that what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to renew our minds every single day. How do we renew our minds? Through prayer. Through supplication. Lifting up our concerns and our petitions to the Lord. We protect ourselves. We allow God to be able to come in and to be able to speak and to work and to talk and to guide and direct us in our life through these things. And what I've got to do, Paul says also, is I've got to die to myself every single day. Here's what happens if I don't die to myself every day. I am more willing to go back and pick up those hurts, those pains, those frustrations, the anger, all of those things. I'm allowing those things to continue into my life. And when I die daily, when I remind myself that it is Christ that I live for, okay, let me put it this way. Has people let you down? Has people let you down? Those of you who are married, has your spouse ever let you down? Why do you say, oh yeah?
I was thinking it though.
People let us down. You know why? If you're perfect, raise your hand. See, there's no perfect people. God doesn't let us down. We can try to point fingers. And we can try to say, well, if God is so good, why didn't He do this? If God is this, why didn't He do that? Let me remind us quickly of the story of Joseph. Joseph was born. His daddy really liked him. His mama made him a coat of many colors. I heard that story when we were here, right? As a matter of fact, Joseph was given the ability to be able to dream dreams and to be able to interpret these dreams. One of these days, one time he had this dream when he was young. He said, I had a dream that said, I saw all these stars in the sky, all these stars fell and they bowed down before me. Well, it made everybody in the family mad. And especially made the brothers mad because, the firstborn, and one day at a time, the firstborn thing, for him to hear something like that, that really tipped him off. So the brothers are out one